Good morning. It is Monday, February the 24th. Wow. So after Snowpocalypse 2, we were out 3 days last week because of snow, and we had, I don't know if it's completely unprecedented here in Currituck, but it's been a long time. And I've been here. I've lived here. My family's lived in Currituck for 32 years, and it's the most snow that, for sure, that we have ever gotten since we've been living here, since I've been living here, I should say. So we got almost 12 inches, a foot of snow last Wednesday. So we're still kind of digging out. There's a 2-hour delay today in Currituck County schools to make sure that the temps got up yesterday, but to give the sun an opportunity to get out and melt more of the ice off of the side roads. But anyway, so I'm up, of course, normal school time. Having come through the past 5 days, it was a challenging 5 days. I lost heat Wednesday night and woke up Thursday morning to 38-degree temps. The quote emergency heat came on. I guess I'm grateful for every little bit of temp or heat that there was, but it was 38 degrees inside. It was colder obviously outside, but 38 degrees inside from Wednesday night through till Friday afternoon. So I feel like I have been living in an igloo, although I don't know how cold it gets inside the igloo. Oh, a little something to research. But anyway, finally they couldn't come out obviously on Thursday because the snow was just too much, but got the weather makers out here, and I'm grateful because up in the attic they found where the panel had melted. We're not sure exactly what else going on, still some more work to be done, but I'm grateful there wasn't a fire. But I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about a CPB quickly, and in trying to figure out, I had to do some pivoting because we had virtual learning days last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I, with my academic seniors, did not give a lot. We were working on our rhetorical analysis on drafting, their analysis of the Kendrick Lamar performance at Super Bowl 59. So that's what I asked them to finish up with, and to take a look at MLA formatting as a review, because these are seniors. It shouldn't be the first time, and I know it's not, that they've seen it. And I also, since we were not in person, I posted a YouTube video, a read aloud of the Mac Barnett, Sam, and Dave dig a hole, because that was one, and I had done a video for this blog on that, not last week, but the week before, in my intention to use that and to help them see the parallels between digging the hole, the literal digging of the hole, and the positioning of themselves as writers and the decisions that they make. And it's full of decision making, but it's also, sometimes you feel like you're digging and you're not necessarily finding something, and the persistence in that. So I had them do a couple of reflection questions on Friday. Reflect on their paper and that rhetorical process of writing, and how a couple of where they had to pick a decision they had made, and then also what did they want to tell me. And the stuff that they turned in, the ones that did, were a minority, which, I'm very discouraged about that, but that discouragement is fueling my decision on the CPB that I'm going to highlight in just a minute. But the ones that did turn it in, I was really excited to read what they had to write. It was insightful, it was thoughtful, intentional. The last question, I only gave 3 questions, but the last question I asked them was, tell me something about this process. And you can't put nothing or NA, because I've had kids that want to do that. And so one of the ones that kind of just stood out for me was, this is the most interesting paper I've ever wrote. It should have been written, but I love that. I thought, that thrills me that this writer engaged in a way that he found interesting to him, because I think I, have been guilty so often of, quote, teacher assigned topics and kind of discounting the importance of having students invested in it, in whatever it is that they're writing about. And by that investment piece, I don't mean just take, quote, a limited choice, but really, what do you want to say? And I think too often I've provided the topic and not given them the room to position themselves as writers. So I was thrilled with that. I'm like so thrilled that a student wrote that and found that interesting. And there's also maybe perhaps a little bit of sadness in that too, that he's a senior, his second semester senior, and it's the most interesting that he's ever found. So I thought, wow, what does that mean? We're not, and I include myself in this because I taught sophomores for most of my career till recent years with seniors, but it shouldn't be that that's the most interesting topic or most interesting paper you've ever written. You want them to have that experience, I think, sooner and earlier to really invest in the writing. But so it's something I need to work on in many ways. But the other part of this is that the majority of my students did not do the reflection, did not upload the papers. So 3 days, it wasn't new work. It wasn't brand new work at all. It was finishing up and uploading. So we're going to be kind of having a, come to Jesus meeting today when I go back in the classroom. And I find that with teenagers, I need to be direct and frank, but at the same time, not just start off with, hey, miss seeing you. It's almost been a week since I saw your faces, but here's what you did wrong, and start in on a lecture. I want them to know that I'm excited for them to be back in the classroom. I'm always trying to make an inviting place. We struggle with attendance. Even second semester seniors, I have more than a third and half, 50% in one class that I have already met the definition of chronic absenteeism. So, that's with 15 days of instruction as of last Tuesday. That was before the snow. So the chronic absenteeism is when you have missed 10% or more of the instructional days thus far. So it's a challenge, and it has been. But I want to get the point across to them that there are consequences for things that we do. That's important, is to understand these are consequences. How do I teach them that, deliver that without crushing their spirit? And I've got a children's picture book that I think can handle it. So this is Jon Klassen's This Is Not My Hat. And you'll recall when I was highlighting the Mac Barnett, Dave, and Sam Dig a Hole, Jon Klassen was the illustrator on that. Mac Barnett was the writer, and Jon Klassen is the illustrator. And they've actually worked together before. But this one is written and illustrated by Jon Klassen. And it is called This Is Not My Hat. And actually, this is something I'm trying to highlight with my students too. It won the Caldecott medal, which is, of course, the award for best illustrations. Let's see. It won it in, I think, 2013. Was when it came out and won. So it was actually copyrighted 2012, but 2013, the next year, it won the Caldecott, which is typically announced in January of each year from the previous years. And because I want to show the end pages as well, that's one of the things I think I mentioned. That's one of my very favorite parts of children's picture books these days. Let me show you the end pages at the end too, because there's messaging. There's messaging in it. And so, and I mean, just so clever. Anyway, and this is Under the Sea. So, and I'll show you while I'm showing you here, I'll show you the book dedications. That's another part that I'll talk about that we do now, and it's a lot of fun. This is not my hat, so it's just missing. I'll read just a little bit. This hat is not mine. I just stole it. So you've got this little tiny fish. And again, one of the things that I like about Klassen is very intentional use of space and letting, I guess, I know there's positive and negative space in art. Letting the negative space, which I think is space that's not filled up, be a rhetorical strategy. I understand why he won the Caldecott. And so, and what I love about this next one is look at that spread. I stole it from a big fish. He was asleep when I did it. And look how big the perspective of this children's picture book is. It goes from just that tiny little fish to this big, huge whale or some kind of big fish, where it takes up the whole spread. So it's just interesting. And he probably won't wake up for a long time. That's what the little fish is telling him. So anyway, the children's picture book continues, and you know, it's narrated. It's being narrated through the conscience of the little fish. And even if he does wake up, he probably won't notice that it's gone. And even if he does notice that it's gone, he probably won't know it was me who took it. And even if he does guess it was me, he won't know where I am going. So all the line of reasoning in this children's picture book is a fantastic thing to follow, with the idea that each decision leads to another consequence that the little fish is kind of in denial. And it's the idea of when we start down that path, you know, a lie that we can tell ourselves. What is the idiomatic expression? It snowballs, appropriate for me to use today, coming off of this, you know, Snowpocalypse 2 in the winter of 24, 25 here locally. But it gets bigger and bigger, the lies and the denial gets bigger and bigger until you just forget, or you have convinced yourself of what you did. You've justified your decision. So anyway, the book continues with that justification, that line of reasoning, until, and I have to show you the end here, so spoiler alert, the little fish decides to go into some area, you know, grown up with all the seaweed and the underneath plants, and says nobody will ever find me because he's going to get away, right? And I love what happens next, and that's the messaging. You'll see the spread that you saw on the end pages too. All this kelp and plants, and it's like, oh, I can hide in here. Nobody will ever find me. And then, you know, we get the last spread, which talk about inference making, right? So we see the little witness, the bystander down here, the little crab, and we see the back here of the big fish that has gone in, right? And you see the trail that of bubbles that the big fish has left. No sign of the little fish who has been lined himself. All you see is the big fish with the little hat on his head that rightfully belonged to him, the little hat that the little fish took. And that's how it ends. And then we're back to the end page. So the consequences are there. We can justify all we want, but there are consequences for our actions, our choices. So I think this is a good one that I'm going to use today to talk about, you know, when we decide not to do what we are supposed to do, we can have lots of excuses, but we need to understand that there are consequences for that. So, and I just think with the number, I'm not denying that there could be issues with, for example, with loss of power. I didn't hear of anybody in the system in the county losing power, but I know coming off myself, not having heat for 48 hours, that there are certainly difficulties to work around. So I'm going to launch this, and talk about this in terms of consequences that we can't avoid if we don't stop ourselves from saying, well, I don't need to, or I won't get caught, or it won't happen to me, with kind of a little grace period for, a day or so to get this in. We are not going to spend time in class going back and working on what they should have done already, because we had already begun the drafting process. So I will do that, and then we'll use this, and I'll use this as well to talk about line of reasoning, which I think it's actually one of the points on their rhetorical analysis, that they had to have a line of reasoning going through their writing. So this is a great one to talk about with that as well. And I can use this not only with my academic seniors, but I can use this with my AP kids to talk about, and really help build in that line of reasoning, what they still don't understand about it with this children's picture book. And we are going to go on and start launching into, after we work on our notebook some, we're going to launch into Rama the Ancient Mariner. I'm excited about using Gustave Doré. He was a French illustrator in the 19th century. His wood prints, you can get free copies of it online, printing them out and having them do some work with that, almost like playing cards, as a nice intro into Coleridge's Rama the Ancient Mariner. And we are doing a little bit of prep work for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So I'm excited. I'm going to do that with not only my AP Literature students, but also do that with my Academic English 4. I just love there's so many ways. The thing about Frankenstein is the relevance is still there, and it changes, it evolves as time goes on, but it's still very much there. So, and it's a perfect part of building that foundation for these students who I'm trying to help them position themselves not only as writers, but as creators as we move into the Children's Picture Book Project. So we are looking at March for dates for them to go and meet some of the first graders and to start that partnership. So anyway, some exciting things ahead, and I hope you have a great day and be blessed.